No.
He finally came clean on that.
Did he?
Because I called him up and I said, hey, man, where's our stuff? Like, and it was, I don't get to that stuff fast because I got a lot going on. So it was like a year later.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, and he's like, oh man, I was hoping you were going to ask me that.
Funny thing about that.
And
it's the first time that's ever happened to him.
This segment of DoD TV is brought to you by Leupold, American to the core.
And we're back. Welcome, everyone, to the DruryOutdoors 100% Wild Podcast, episode number 194. I'm Tim Chelsvik.
I'm Matt Drury, and we have a special guest today.
Yeah, we're scoping out optics for 2021 with Leupold CEO and President, Mr. Bruce Pettet.
What's up, Bruce?
Hey, guys, how you doing?
We're doing good, buddy.
Man. Yeah, thanks for hopping on.
Yeah, we got a sunny day out here in Oregon. That's a rare occasion this time of year, so I'm pretty pumped.
So for those that may not know, this is part of the story with Leupold that I love, the kind of the history behind the company and where they're located and all that stuff. It's American made. It's all that the good qualities that you look for. But the town that they're based out of is Beaverton. Right, I got that right? Beaverton, Oregon. I love that. That's like a town you'd see in The Simpsons or something.
And Beaverton is highly featured in the show Portlandia.
I see,
which does a pretty good job of showing kind of the culture of the left coast.
Oh,
yeah, no, it's right on. Actually, luckily being in Beaverton and not Portland is a big benefit for us. So we're a little bit out of the the noise of what goes on down there. But, the thing with Oregon is it's just an interesting place because it's got certainly politics that tend to be incredibly interesting in a lot of ways. But what I will tell you about Oregon is it's got some of the greatest outdoors men and women in the country. I mean, it really does. I mean, we can hunt 3 types of elk. We've got all kinds of different deer. We've got game birds. I mean, the upland bird hunting is incredible. Lots of ducks and geese, obviously. And so it's an interesting thing because, incredible support for sportsmen and women here, in this state. And it's been a great place. So we've been here 113 years.
That's the crazy part.
That's
man.
awesome.
The company, it's a family owned company, correct?
Yeah, we're still family owned. We're in our 5th generation of family ownership. Incredible shareholders that just care deeply about this company, care about conservation. I mean, what we do for conservation, I don't think any other optics company can even get close. Probably all of them combined probably don't do what we do. So they're passionate about that and passionate about building a company that really future generations will be proud of, not just what's going to happen in this next quarter. And it's really, for me as a CEO, it's really a great thing because I have the opportunity to build, what we call generational value. Making sure it's going to be something that lasts forever. And we don't care if we're the biggest. What we care is, are we the best?
Sure.
Is the products that we're putting out. That's been our commitment to quality. And so every single optic that you mount on any kind of a firearm that we sell, if you mount on it and you're going to look through it and you're going to pull the trigger, has to come out of this factory in Beaverton, Oregon. Pretty cool. No one's even close.
Yeah. And you could look across the landscape of different optic companies and you look at price point and you look at quality and realistically for the price, Leupold is the best glass out there in a lot of different ways. And you could stack them all up. But when you look at, hey, you're going to Bass Pro, going to Cabela's or going somewhere to get, a scope to put on your 270 or your shotgun or whatever the case may be. Or
binos or a rangefinder.
I mean, you guys you're right there in the mix, but the quality, those first 15 minutes, the last 15 minutes, like that's where you see such a noticeable difference. It just
the color reproduction, the light transmission.
It really is something to go do your own test and go check it out. If a buddy's got a set or you're looking through yours versus his. I mean, I really never knew about it until, we started to talk together. Well, this probably been 3-4 years back now, right? I'd say.
Yeah.
2017, I think. Mm-hmm. And the opportunity arose for us to have a discussion. And we have a great mutual partner in Mossy Oak. And so the opportunity was there for us to talk with these guys. And I had never used another optics other than who we were with at the time. Mm-hmm. And just putting the binoculars up, you're like, oh man, okay.
See what you've been missing.
Exactly. So it just, I don't know. You could do that the eye test, literally the eye test.
The old eye test.
and
the Matt Drury eye test.
You'll see it. You'll see the difference.
100%.
So
Bruce, I have a burning question. I have to jump out of the gates with this, and we'll get into shout outs here from our listeners here real quick. What happens to you emotionally, physically, personally when someone says Leupold?
I don't worry about that anymore. Because the truth is they do it all the time. So it doesn't matter. I can't make it a big deal. And I think the second thing is that, as long as they're buying our product and supporting our brand, it's fine, but it is Leupold. And just for the record, it happens all the time. And you know what's funny? I think my friends that I hunt with that aren't part of the company and, I think they do it on purpose just to get me, they'll just start doing it. And I'm like, guys, I've told you this 100 times. It doesn't matter. They'll still do it.
Stop it.
I just kind of leave it alone and don't let it bother me too much.
When people pronounce DruryOutdoors with a J and a U, start out with a J. DruryOutdoors.
Spelling DeerCast is 2 words. DeerCast tracker.
That only annoys you.
Yeah, no, I'm clearly the grammar Nazi on the team and just the cross I bear.
Bruce and I, so when we first started talking, the two companies, an opportunity was presented us where somebody dropped out of a hunt that these guys were going on. They were actually going out to Utah with the guys at Wild Country Adventures, where Austin landed his family guides. And just so happens that they had somebody drop out, and we were just in the kind of the beginning stages of the discussion. And so he was like, hey, Mark, you should come out here and hunt with me, and we'll get to know each other, and we'll, kind of put the finishing touches on this deal. And Mark, Mark and Terry just, I don't know what their deal is, their tunnel vision about Midwest whitetails, but they both passed, and I got lucky.
You got the scraps from the big boys table.
It's the best hunt I've ever been on. I'm like, hey guys, if there's ever anything that pops up that you're just not feeling, let me know about it. But we had such a good time, and that was such an incredible experience out there in Utah. It's like a whole different world for obviously Midwestern guys or flatlanders as they call us. It was nice to get out there with you Westies.
Yeah, no, it's Utah's special, but you take a lot of the Western states, Oregon's incredible to hunt in, the Washington's a good state and there's a lot of great deer there. And Colorado obviously has an incredible reputation, but Utah's pretty special. I mean, for elk hunting, it and New Mexico both are, and of course Arizona, but those are really great elk states, great states to hunt in. Yeah. We had a great time. That was a fun hunt.
It was.
You made a great shot too. The thing I will tell you all about this is that Matt was under some pressure because I was hunting with Austin and we were in a different part of the ranch, but we were way up on the top of this bluff, and we looked down there and there's Matt, and he's putting a stalk on an elk. And so we just got quiet, got down, and just sat there with our binos and got him in it and watched the whole thing. So you don't get to do that very often. I mean, this place is massive, but it just happened to be that way. And it happened to be Matt that we got to watch, and he made a great shot on a great elk.
Silently judging from afar.
And I knew that they were, I hadn't known that they were there watching.
Oh,
so it was like, no pressure. We actually blew the stock because we made this long stalk on a great elk. He was in the middle of a herd. One of the cows caught us. It was like a long ordeal, and one of the cows caught us. That herd took off, and we were kind of feeling dejected. And then all of a sudden, we run to the edge of this knob and look down, and there's another little small herd, and this one bull in the middle of them. And it all came together, but it was for me, it was very tense because I've never done anything like that. And
you had an audience the whole time.
Exactly. And to know hey, it wasn't, but it felt like, hey, everything's riding on me making a good shot. So no pressure.
They're up there clapping at you.
It was fun though.
I mean, I've never had that happen before either, where I've been able to do that. It was actually really cool. Yeah. It was really cool. We were just too far away to come celebrate with you. So it was like, it took us forever to get over there, but it was awesome. So
these guys actually Austin was filming it through like the spotting scope. So we have their angle. It is that cool. Yeah. So
that's the reset hunt if people want to look for it in DeerCast or YouTube.
Yeah. It's just called Reset. It was back in 2017. It was cool hunt. So anyways, enough reminiscing. I have something for Bruce about Mark that I'm going to tell him later on at the end of this thing. So I can jab and then we can hang up and leave.
Okay.
But I'll tell you a little something about Mark, something that I think you'll find interesting that I don't think you know already.
So let's do some shout outs. But first, I noticed last podcast episode, Matt, who produces this show,
not this Matt, another Matt,
real Matt, has been dubbing in over-exaggerated swallow sounds whenever we take a drink.
So I guess I'm gonna have to start watching the podcast.
If you're listening and you wonder why these guys drink so violently, it's not real.
Matt, stop that. People actually have like phobias.
They have problems with hearing people chew and stuff. That's a real issue. So, all right. So speaking of issues, let's hop into our shout outs.
All right. So you want me to go first or do you
Please, sir.
First? All right. Eric Orr from the Apple Podcast says, enjoy your content. What a heck of a season for DoD. Congratulations to all y'all. He likes y'all. Y'all keep it funny and informative. Just the right mix. Accidentally tapped the half speed icon at the bottom left of the screen. If you've never done it, I recommend it just for a minute for a little more laughter. Keep up the good work. Merry Christmas. God bless. I guess that makes those fart sounds sound
well. This is something I've been.
See, Bruce, I told you.
Bruce is like, why am I doing this?
You can never not have that sound on this podcast.
Yeah, it makes the show. This Eric brings up something that I've been wanting to say for a long time. I always forget about it. But if you hit that speed variant button, it slows us down and we sound like we're drunk.
Well, if you speed it up.
Speed it up, then we're chipmunks.
Yeah.
So do it, but don't do it for the entire show.
All right.
And then Bryce Anderson on YouTube says, your videos are the best and you're a big influence in hunting. I'm 9 years old. I've killed a buck, a doe, and a turkey. Way to go, Bryce.
Congratulations,
Keep it up,
Bryce.
buddy.
Don't tell your parents you're watching this because I've gotten in trouble.
Sometimes Matt cusses.
No, I try not to. But
trying to be a better man.
I have had my hand slapped from our mothers in the audience. So.
Yeah.
All right. So what next, Timothy?
Let's hop into what's new for 2021 because I know with SHOT Show canceled, it's really put a damper on the ability for people to kind of see what's new and coming out. But I know Leupold's got a bunch of great stuff, especially that new handgun site that
it seems to be taking off. I mean, has that been like a little bit of a hot button item for you guys there at Leupold? I'm hearing a lot about it.
Yeah, we launched a Delta, we call it a Delta microsite. And so one of the things with handgun optics, and as you know, in the handgun market right now, optics have really taken off. I mean, your target acquisitions, quicker accuracy, it helps a ton. And we have one called the Delta Point Pro, which has really taken over a lot of the elite users out there. So we supply it to places like CAG and a lot of elite, of our elite military and law enforcement. And but what the one thing about those is they make them tough from a carry standpoint. So because they're bigger, so your concealed carry holsters it's just a harder carry than what you would have if you had a handgun without an optic. And so we about 3 years ago we saw the need to develop a much smaller, streamlined optic that would be much easier to use in a carry situation. And this thing, we have about 80 engineers here. So the products you get from us, they don't come off a shelf somewhere in Asia that somebody looks at and says, put my brand on that. We actually design, develop them, do all of the optical work right here in Beaverton, in our factory. And what we were really looking for with this is, could we get something that if, the electronics don't work, that you still are on target? You can still do it. And so what this essentially does is it gives you almost the best of both worlds, a peep sight, if you will, kind of where you look through it and you've got the ability to stay on it. So you're still using your front sight, but it's also got a red dot in there. And I will tell you, people look at it and they go, I don't know, how could I ever get target acquisition this? But if you just work with it just for a short period of time, which I did last year when we had some protos and we went out to our place we have a place called the Leupold Optics Academy. It's about an hour and a half away here in Eastern Oregon. And we do a lot of handgun long range. This is where we test our optics. It's where our engineers go. And I was amazed at how quickly I could get that and get on target and how much more accurate I was with it. And so this development, it's just a really tiny package when you see it. Mm-hmm. And so it was a challenge from an engineering perspective, but we got it done. And, I actually just got off the phone before I got on this podcast with Kyle Lamb, who's a pretty well-known guy in the tier 1 community. And he was, in Mogadishu. So the famous movie Black Hawk Down, yeah. He was one of the guys that was there. I mean, he's a high level instructor as it relates to firearms. And he's just like, dude, this thing is amazing. So we've been working with him throughout the prototype process with it to make sure that not only is it going to work for guys like you and me, but let's make sure that if we put this on our tier 1 users, if we put it on our law enforcement teams, it's going to actually work. And it does. And it's just taken off.
I'd like to know what tier Tim and I are considered.
If we don't know, then we probably aren't in one even.
I was just thinking boy, he went from that call to this.
Tier one,
man, how far we fall, Bruce.
Hey, Matt, what was weird is Kyle did not make any fart sounds on his call.
That's bullshit.
Huh.
It was off. I expected it any moment.
Well, fun we're going to make up for it here. Fun fact, one of the new effects on the board is a personal one of Matt's from a hunt that he and Scott were on this past fall.
That's what she said.
And it sounds inhuman.
Yeah, well,
so
I'm never going to let someone know ahead of time which sound that was.
So you get to guess.
Anyways.
Which brings to mind another thing. The soundboard is kind of another co-host on the show.
We'll get to that later. Yeah. So Bruce, that's one of the big time products that you guys are coming out with. But, Riza was, because I was one of the people that work for you guys at Leupold, Riza in the marketing department, who I work with a lot. She was taking me through some of the new products, and she was showing me a new rangefinder that I really thought was interesting. What product is that? When does it come out? Like, when's it hit the shelves, and kind of how does it help? Is it bow hunter oriented or rifle, or is it kind of everything
tier
in between?
One.
Tier 1 or tier 5?
Yeah, she was probably referring to the RX 1400 that we're coming out with, which really, it has all the qualities of everything you're going to want it. So you can put it in bow mode. If you're an archery hunter, you'll be able to use that. But it also, gives you really incredible, accurate ranging, including incline, right? And true ballistic accuracy. So TBR is in it. So we're going to have your true ballistic range. So even if you're in an incline, you're going to be able to use that, and it's going to give you where to hold dead on. So so the 1400 will work with, perfectly with all that. We all know that, when hunting, big game, 1400 is too far of a shot. So you're going to be able to cover anything that you're really going to want to do on big game that makes it ethical and makes sense. So if you're at 500 yards and you've got an incline, you're going to be able to get your true ballistic range with that. And it's an incredible value. I think that's the one thing a lot of times, we hear, well, man, I wish I could afford a Leupold. I wish I had a Leupold. If you really look at our line and you truly go look at it, we are the best value. That's what it's about. I mean, we offer incredibly high quality product that performs in every condition at a great value. And that's what we were going for with the 1400. It's a great product, and it's going to be coming out soon. So we've got that coming. We've got a new VX3 HD. So the VX3 has become, it's really the hallmark of performance rifle scopes. I mean, people have used that package, a VX3 package for literally, decades now.
Is that in the Freedom line? Is that in the Freedom line, or is that separate from the Freedom line?
No, it's just above the Freedom line.
Okay.
So you go from the Freedom rifle scope, and your next step up in our product line is the VX3 HD. So we've worked on our optical solution there. It's got Twilight Max on it. So that is absolutely the perfect scope for low light conditions. Every single one of them comes with a CDS dial. So that's your custom dial system. And like in conjunction with that rangefinder, it's a really simple solution. So let's say you've got a 300 yard shot, 350 yard shot, you can range that deer. You can turn to 350 regardless of your angle, and you will hold dead on. And you shoot right behind the shoulder. Right?
So that's convenient to have in the moment of truth too, because that's like that elk hunt we were on. I had a VX5 and it had the CDS on it. And you guys, your custom shop ahead of time, if you know where you're going to hunt, you send in for that elevation. So they do all the ballistics for you. Like all you got to do is they'll tell you, hey, it's going to be, this is the bullet I'm using. This is the gun I'm using. This is the elevation, the area that I'm going to be in. And you get a CDS dial that's custom for that. And you put that thing on there, and it's
done all the ballistics.
It's done all the hard work for you. So like he's saying, you range it, you throw it to the dial. Like I think it was like 212. It was relatively close shot when I shot that elk, but I dialed to that, held dead on and dropped the elk in its tracks. I mean, in the moment of truth, to not have to guess, and do I hold 6 inches high or do I hold on or top and back, or this simplifies it.
And
once you get a custom dial system, and I have a ton of people in the industry and friends, once you put a custom dial system, a CDS dial on your rifle, you won't go back. I mean, you really won't. And it is such a great system. And what I love about it too, is there's a lot of systems out there right now that require all these electronics and all this. And you know what? This is hunting. This is straightforward. You're just going to go, boom, range it, dial, hold, bam, and it works. And it's incredibly accurate out to about 800 yards. I mean, now you got wind. You always got to worry about wind, but you don't have to worry about if you're on the side of a cliff, shooting down into a canyon. You're going to be accurate with that rangefinder.
I think Bruce is going to be able to really help out our buddy who called in with a question of the day this week.
We have a good one?
Yeah.
Should we get into it? All right.
Why not?
All right. The question of the day is brought to you by Can-Am. Hunting is what we do and why we take our purpose-built hunting vehicles so seriously.
Hey guys, my name is Mark Morgan out of Oklahoma, and I have a question about ranging deer. So basically, I go to the gun range, I zero in at 100 yards, dead on. I kill deer from my 15-foot stand at about 80 yards out, some at about 100, one at, and then also on the ground, level to the ground, one at 162 yards. The problem is I have missed twice on the top from the top of a huge hill, and I don't know why. It seems like they're at about 40 or 50 yards when I walk all the way down the hill, maybe about 60 or 70 yards. Why am I continuing to miss? Whatever help you guys can give, I would definitely appreciate it. Why am I missing close? As a matter of fact, not only that, but during muzzleloader season, I had a doe come right within 30 yards of me, and I was on the ground parallel, put the crosshairs on her, and I missed. So give me a call back. I mean, not a call back, but give me a good answer.
We aren't going to call you back, but we'll try to answer the call here. So we got the right guy on the podcast.
100%. So he's dialed it at 100 yards, but he's missing close. What do you think, Bruce?
Well, I think, first of all, Mark, just so you know, my mother was born in Oklahoma. So it's a favorite state of mine. I've hunted there a few times. And actually, the first hunt I ever went on was with my grandpa, and it was in Oklahoma. So nice. My mom was born in Tishomingo, Oklahoma. So I've spent quite a bit of time there. So love your state. Hey, here, a couple things on that. It sounds like to me, you got two questions really there. One is, kind of about, some of the angles and where, what that is. When you think about 50 yards at an angle, I don't know what angle you were at, like how, so it's hard for me to answer that. But my guess at 50 yards, depending upon, what you're using, you're not going to change really how much that is going to be off. It's inches. It's not feet, unless you're like at some crazy angle. But even then, honestly, at 50 yards, I don't see it. What I would recommend though, because, something is there for you is do get a rangefinder that gives you true ballistic range and range what you're doing, and get yourself a custom dial system that you can, it just more than anything, what it might do is in your head, it might go, look, I'm right on right now, because you're not trying to worry about, is this angle going to throw me off? And then that gets in your head. Because my guess is, thinking about the question on the doe at 30 to 40 yards that you were actually not with the incline, the truth is what my guess is you are actually getting these easy shots and you're not getting yourself set, and you got to be jerking. That's the only thing that can happen at 30 to 40 yards, because something's gone wrong. And usually, unless, if you've checked your optic and hopefully you got a Leupold on there, but you're missing like that, you maybe don't, maybe you don't. But anyway,
here's your first problem.
But I would really look at, am I getting set? Am I getting stable? And am I getting in there on these shots that I know are going to be easy, and that, 40, 50 yards, 30 yards, they're right there. They're on top of you. And it sounds like to me, you might just be taking those for granted and pulling a little bit or something like that. So I would treat every shot just like you're shooting 500 yards. You know, make sure you're stable. A lot of times if you take those quick shots, you're not getting your elbow down and you're not getting stable so that you got 3 points of contact and something's pulling up on you is probably what it sounds like to me.
That's what I was going to say. I like, if you're not really holding, was he freehanding it? Did he have a rest? There's a lot of ways.
Call him and find out.
Oh, I don't know. That's right. He did want me to call him back, but there's a lot that could go wrong there. But realistically, at like those distances, you would think you're holding dead on, drop him in its tracks, for the most part. But
it's not going to move much.
Yeah. So I mean, you'd have to really pull, low or high, or maybe it was to the right, or you'd have to pull in some direction to totally miss it at that. Here would be another tip is Mark told me this a long time ago, and Terry too, like when you go into the field, your scope, like you don't want it dialed all the way for the furthest distance, because if they come in really close, you don't have time to back out. Like you're just putting it up and your sight picture isn't as good. Mm-hmm. So like I always start out on a lower power so that you can always zoom in, but at the very least, it's easy to find the deer in your scope. Maybe it's just that, in a quick, if they were that close, maybe it happened quick, threw the gun up and just didn't have a good sight picture to, and a steady base to shoot off of.
Yeah.
So
as an expert, I mean, I've killed 100% of the deer I've shot at with a rifle.
That'd be one.
So let's not get bogged down in numbers.
And you were on a Leupold.
That's right. Yeah, it was with Sean Skipper. Yeah.
Bruce probably doesn't even know that.
Yep, I got to meet the Skip.
He's probably wondering why they're having people like Tim out on
that's like
hunts.
tier 10.
It was actually tier 10. We were like tier the 10 last people. Choice. Right. Mossy Oak's like, all right, this guy dropped. I couldn't go. I'm like, Tim's the guy.
Default. But typically, I always try to think like whether it's archery or shooting a gun, I think about myself first. Like I'm usually the problem because the equipment usually stays the same unless you bump a scope or something. Usually it's through the sequence that's the problem. So look inward, Mark.
Well, when you said I'm the problem, I wanted to say
that's what she said,
but I didn't.
That hurts.
All right.
I'm really hurt.
All right. So we answered that question.
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
You guys ready?
The final thing I'd say, Mark, is here's the thing. Everybody misses shots. Anyone who tells you they don't, they're lying. 100% they're lying. And you all miss shots. So you just got to, I think this one is one just kind of looking and like Matt said, just what are you doing at that kind of moment of truth when you get those deer in close?
Yeah. Yeah. It may not hurt to have someone or just take your phone and slow motion film you while you're shooting and you can see stuff that happens.
The reality of it is though, shooting at the range versus shooting in the moment of truth. Yeah. There's no, unless you had a camera rolling for a side angle or something, just a point of view or your phone or whatever, but it's really hard to know what you did wrong. We get the luxury of looking back and I'm like, oh, I flinched.
I shut my eyes, then I pulled the trigger. That's not how you do it, is it?
So, yeah.
Speaking of closing your eyes, how about the wildlife word?
Well, before we get into that, I wanted to bring up another thing with Bruce. So I get a lot of questions because Mark's been pushing the fire dot.
Yep.
A lot. Yep. And so I get a lot of DMs about it and just emails in general through the DruryOutdoors website about that setup. And he really... like it's made things easier for turkey season, but he really helped my grandma out a lot. He put it on the gun she was using for deer season. He put it on the crossbow that she's using. I now got one on the mission crossbow that I have. And it really, and you and your daughter used that crossbow and she killed a doe, right? Yep. So it really does make it kind of like a no-brainer to use, that kind of optic setup, especially for older and younger people, either getting into the sport or staying into the sport. Do you have anything to add on that and what line specifically? Because I get questions about it all the time.
Yeah. So what he's referring to is a fire dot, which is essentially an illuminated dot that's in the middle of your crosshairs. Okay. There's different variations of reticles that you can get a fire dot in. You can get it in a standard duplex reticle. You can get it in a reticle that has holds, but the fire dot will light up right in the middle of your crosshairs. So I get them on every single, scope that I put on any rifle. the reason that I like it, it's got the ability to dim. So if you're in the middle of the day, obviously it's turned up a little bit higher to see your dot. If it's getting toward low light, then you need to turn that dot down a little bit so it's not so bright. But what I really love about it is it just takes your focus. Your eye just focuses on that hold. So if you put it in a duplex reticle, and you can get it in a VX3 that I just mentioned, so the VX3 HD will have it available. You can get it there. You'll be able to get it in the VX5. Which in my opinion, the VX5 is the best value in our line for what you get. In a 3 to 15, that's my go-to, is a VX5 3 to 15. So for what that is, 3 power, 15 power. It's got a fire dot in it. It comes with a 2-turn CDS dial, so you can dial way out depending on your caliber. And what happens with that is, now if I've got a 400-yard shot on a deer, I can just dial that right in. And I can put that fire dot right behind the shoulder, and your eye goes right to it, and then you can make your shot. So I think it just helps with accuracy. I think it's just a really good thing. And you can turn it off. If you don't want it on there, you can turn it off.
Which one do you use for, say, a crossbow or a shotgun for turkey season, something where it's a closer range type of a situation?
Yeah. So in those, that just becomes like for example, and if you use the VX5, or you could do you can do a 1 to 5, right? And then you still have magnification in that, but you'll have a fire dot on that. And my guess is, I think that's the one Mark has. He may have it in a VX3, but you can put a fire dot in that and get a magnification that's lower. That'll work for you. And we may want to put it on, a certain power and just leave it there as fixed. In those situations where you're shooting shorter, you might want to be able to do that with it. Yeah. But it gives you the option. I
had a guy that emailed me yesterday actually about this very thing. And I sent him a link over to the website, because I do get questions quite a bit on this for a period there. You remember last year we had met up for that, the show you asked us to come to, was it in Indianapolis? I forget where the hell we were at now. Nashville. Yeah. And, I forget where we were. Anyways, you were doing a presentation, and that was, Mark took a picture of the presentation where it was showing that product. And every time I ask him, I was like, hey, what model was that again? He just sends me the picture back. He's like,
tired of telling you.
Basically, it's like, here, dummy. Like, well, how many times are you going to ask me this?
Google.com.
Well, hey, you want to get it right. So
nice.
All right. So, okay. Bruce has never been through the wildlife word of the day. Bruce, your mind's about to be blown.
Ooh-wee. All right. It's brought to you by Muddy Outdoors, home of the highest quality products for serious hunters. So we're getting into thinking about turkeys now. Adult male wild turkeys are called toms. We know that. Juvenile males are called jakes. What is the nickname given to female turkeys? Is it A, Blanche, B, Margaret, C, Jenny, or D, Karen?
I know this one, but we always let the guest go first.
I know it too. So,
well, let's hear it.
Jenny.
That's right.
There you go.
That's right. C, Jenny.
Winners.
Wonder why they came up with that.
I turned one. I
like Margaret better though.
I personally was
got a flock of Margaret.
I may start calling them Margarets.
A bunch of golden girls out there.
Sometimes they can be a bunch of Karens.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I turned one of our DeerCast writers, Justin Prevost, loose on that very assignment. Like, find out why. Where did that come from? He talked to. He talked to Ray I. He talked to Rob Keck, and we could not figure it out.
If those guys don't know, no one knows.
Like, if someone listening to the show knows the origins of that, please let us know.
You should ask Cuz Strickland. He'd be the other one that I would think.
Definitely.
That might know that one.
Yeah. So could be lost to time. Who knows?
Speaking of turkeys, all right, this is a perfect segue into what I wanted to tell Bruce that he may or may not already know. So was it maybe 2 springs ago? You had invited Mark to come hunt with you, to turkey hunt with you. And anybody that knows Mark, he'll travel anywhere to hunt turkeys, but he can be a real pain in the butt to travel with. So he was hitting Bruce up. He had a million questions. He wants to know he wants to know his spots very well before he goes there. He's not into wasting time. He's into getting in and, getting the job done and getting out. And so he asked Bruce like 2 billion questions, and, it was probably the most work you ever had to put into a turkey
Bruce
hunt.
Is reconsidering.
Yeah, so Mark was there to film this stuff for the turkey tour. He was there to film some tips with Bruce for Leupold, some stuff that we wanted to put out on DoD TV. And I don't know if you ever knew this, but Mark lost every card from that trip, and we could never find him. You don't know what happened to him. He doesn't know.
He finally came clean on that.
Did he?
Because I called him up and I said, hey, man, where's our stuff? Like, and it was, I don't get to that stuff fast because I got a lot going on. So it was like a year later.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, and he's like, oh man, I was hoping you were going to ask me that.
Funny thing about that.
And
it's the first time that's ever happened to him.
And that's what I was about to say. Like, I'm throwing him under the bus here, but the odd part is, like, Mark, of everybody, Mark is very dialed into where his footage went, what was on the footage, what card, what day, what, like who ate what for lunch that day, how many margaritas were had. I mean, it's just very dialed into turkeys, to all stuff that he does like that. And for him to lose those cards, it was really odd.
He was beating himself up over it.
Yeah, but dang, I was hoping I was going to be the one to rat him out.
He came clean. He came clean.
He had to, though.
Honesty is always the best
He didn't
policy.
offer it up.
Well, Bruce, any parting shots here? Anything that you want to tease that maybe hasn't been teased yet?
No, look, I really first just want to say thank you for, a great partnership with Team Drury. It's been such a great relationship. Actually, Matt, you probably know this, but Mark and I are gonna hunt turkeys this spring again together, and I get to come his way this time. And
Nice.
It's just such a great time. We become such good friends, and I really enjoy being in the field with them. And your whole team is just absolutely awesome to work with. So, we're just committed to making the world's greatest performance optics. That's what we do every day. I got 650 people here every single day making rifle scopes, and we are American to the core. We're proud of who we are and what we do, and just appreciate everyone who supports the Leupold brand out there, because we are blessed to have so many loyal consumers and customers out there that sport our optics.
Well, and when you're supporting those optics, you're supporting people's jobs in America, which is not always the case. Obviously, it's one of those deals where it's hard to find that. And how the hell did you guys make it through coronavirus and the shutdown? I'm sure you guys, and especially in that state, you had some different things you had to deal with to stay open or to keep rolling. Or how was that period for you guys?
Yeah, I'll give you the quick story. It was really interesting because when we hit March of last year and we could see this thing coming down the way, it was challenging. We were beginning to get letters toward the end of March from the Department of Defense, because we're a tier 1 defense contractor, because we supply a lot to particularly our elite military, but we have various U.S. Army contracts, and we do things for the FBI and Secret Service, and so while everyone's starting to get this kind of thing, we got to shut down and we have to shut this down, this business down, that business, social distance, all that comes out. I'm getting letters from the Department of Defense saying you need to stay open because we need this product. And so it was a really interesting thing, because you had the state kind of doing their thing, and I'm getting these letters, and obviously we're an essential business because of that. And so what we did, Matt, is we shut the factory down for about 5 days. And went through, I do two things. One is we did a deep clean, which makes obvious sense. The second thing that we did is we had to re-engineer our assembly area, because we have a lot of team members that are in assembly to make our scopes, to put them together. And we do all our parts here and everything, but that's kind of where it all comes together. And so in assembly, you want tight working environment, right? Because you got someone right next to you. You go in an assembly line, and all of a sudden you're saying, you can't do that anymore. You gotta have 6 foot between everybody. And I'm just so incredibly thankful for our engineering team, because they got together with our manufacturing team and said, let's figure this out. And we closed on a Wednesday, and by Monday of the next week, we were back up in production.
Nice.
And we were making less scopes, but we had prioritized our military and law enforcement. We had to, and then we went to work on how do we get capacity back up? Because I could see in April and then into May that demand was starting to, this is when people were like, the pandemic hit, and all of a sudden they're like, maybe we want to go outdoors. Maybe we're not going to be able to travel. And you could see demand for our product was going up, actually. We didn't know that back in March that was going to happen, but it did. And our team just came together. And, I'm so thankful for our team that comes into this factory every single day, and they wear masks every day, and they social distance every day, and they do everything they can to keep their team members safe through this crazy thing. We've had very few COVID cases. We've been so lucky. And work hard every day. And by the end of the year, we actually produced as many scopes as we have in the history of our company.
Wow. That's pretty amazing.
Wow. It is. And you know what that is? I could say it's, this strategy or that strategy. And I think what's happened is we just have this incredible team of people. Some of them have been with us over 40 years. And you know what? They're tough. And they just came together and said, you know what? We're going to get this done. We got the demand. People want our product. We're going to get it done. And they're still doing it today, right now, every single day. We had a great 2020 in the end because of the support of our customers out there. And really because of the support of our team to be able to continue to get products out. So I know there's consumers out there that are saying, hey, I watched this podcast and how come I can't find your product? Look, we're doing everything we possibly can to get as much product out as possible. And we're doing it every single day. So it's been great.
It's funny you mentioned that because we had just launched a podcast about Winchester's new load that they came out with, the 6.8 Western. And people were getting a little banty in the comments about, they're like, hey, great, coming out with a new load when we can't get ammo for the load we already have. And I think that's what, and it's no fault to the people at home, but every manufacturer that I know that we deal with, they're like, shoot, we're working like double overtime. Like it's night shifts. And like we, a lot of them were shut down for a period, whether it was 5 days or 2 months or a month or, we talked to the guys at Faradyne and they were shut down for a while there in Wisconsin. And it's just like everybody is, but there's nobody holding back. Like no manufacturers wanting to leave business sitting on the table. You know what I mean? They're doing everything they possibly can to get through this, but there's more demand than there is supply. And that's just the reality of it, and especially like you were talking about your government contract. I'm sure Winchester Ammo has, I know they have several government contracts and there's certain things that they don't have control over. They have to prioritize, but it's just interesting, what the perception is at home versus what the reality is. Everybody's busting their butt to just try to make as many as they can. I'm sure there's many CEOs and presidents that are thinking, I wish we, had a whole other plant and work, can make a million more scopes, but it's just not, the reality of the situation. You work with what you have and make as many as you can. That's it, so it's funny you brought that up though.
Yeah, it's I feel for the ammo guys because they take the hit more than anyone else. And I can just tell you from being a US manufacturer, increasing capacity, there's things you can do that within your existing facility, which we have done. We're going to make more scopes this year. Again, we'll beat last year. We'll make more than we've ever made. But it isn't magical to just turn it on and double capacity. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
And for me to catch what we've got right now, I probably need to double our capacity, to be honest.
Yeah.
And there's 212 parts in a VX6 and they all got to come together perfectly. They've got to be optically perfect. They've got to have Leupold ruggedness, Leupold quality. And guess what? I guarantee it forever. So they have to be perfect.
Yeah.
Right.
And they're tiny.
That's not an easy thing to do. I mean, that is, I remember the first time I walked through our factory, I said, I don't know how we make money because this looks really, really hard, and we do, but it's a really tough process. And I think that's why we are unique. That's why we're the only ones that truly manufacture every single optic that you look through and you pull the trigger in the United States of America and what we do, because it's really hard to duplicate what we do.
If anybody wants to see that tour, I think Mark did a tour through the factory up there. It's on DoD TV. So we might link that in our show notes so people can check it out because it is pretty cool. I mean, it is I haven't had the pleasure to go out there yet, but I look forward to doing it here one day because it is pretty neat. So highly recommend checking it out.
Heck yeah. Sounds like you got a pretty relentless team there, Bruce. I get it because be relentless slogan.
That's a great lead-in.
Yeah,
it is.
Tim,
I'll tell you something about be relentless. I think we found it is really our mantra. It's not a tagline for us, and it's not a marketing campaign. It's really our mantra here because we are relentless about quality. We're relentless about American manufacturing. And we're relentless about providing all of our customers out there with an optic that if that buck of a lifetime steps out in front of them, that optic needs to work.
Mm-hmm.
And more importantly, when our warfighters put our optic on the top of their rifle, I want to make sure that it delivers for them. That to me those are the epic moments that make my job, just incredibly inspiring and to come into every day.
Yeah,
I'd say those tier 1 examples are probably a little more important. So I'm going to start walking around here and calling people, you're tier 1, you're tier 3, buddy. Like, let's pick it up.
We have a caste system at work. Perfect. Right. Can't wait. Well, Bruce, thanks so much for taking the time and hopping on with us.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. I appreciate what you do, and thanks again for the partnership.
Absolutely. All right. Well, if you guys enjoyed the podcast, please be sure to subscribe and share the word with your friends. We're continuing to grow, and I think we're starting to get on other platforms as well. We talked about it internally, and
platforms is probably no one's heard of, like Deezer and Ghana, but we're going to be on Pandora.
Yeah.
So that one, if you stream music through there,
that one might take a little bit. We're working on it, but we submitted and we're trying to get on there.
Radio.com.
Yeah. So anyways, continuing to grow the footprint, and we appreciate the audience tagging along and sharing the good word
and feedback. And if you have ideas on what we should name our new co-host, the soundboard, let us know in the comments.
Yeah. I look forward to that.
Yeah.
So,
all right. Thanks, everybody.
Next time. Peace out. We're adding new videos every week, so make sure to click that subscribe button and check out all of our amazing content. This episode of DoD TV was brought to you by Leupold.